Now that the transfer window is over and Arsenal have a break from football, I think it's a good time to look at the current team and the current situation at the club and really assess what we've been doing so far this year and if it is sustainable. And hopefully you'll learn something new about the team you didn't know today. So let's get into it. Now, I definitely think there's been a certain degree of head loss in the Arsenal fan base over the last few days, I would say, and overall can understand why we've given the situation. Now, I am still a bit salty about the Declan Rice red card and obviously the Arsenal 1-1 draw. I know it's going to be a tough game against Tottenham, whatever team we play now, but I still believe Arsenal are clearly the better team over them. I also think, yet again, we haven't started the season on complete flames. There's been a lot of tactical problems with trying to fit people in that haven't played there, and overall I still think there's been a bit of disconnect between some of our attack and defence where none of it has looked that clean. Despite that, I think clearly we are still one of the best teams in the league, and you've also got to factor in who we've played. Brighton, Wolves and Villa, 3 decent teams, and a few of them I'm sure will be fighting very high in the league. Now, I think all 3 of the teams that we've played against have showed quite a big level of physicality. Obviously, in a sense, I think you need to against Arsenal with how physical we are, one of the best in Europe, and there's been so many chess matches going on in each game to try and get us to limit our powers. Now, we still created a lot of chances, I feel, maybe not clear-cut chances. The XG might not be the best because we didn't get shots away in certain situations, but it's quite clear that players like Saka, I think Havertz, have been really good at the start of this season and have come in on fire. But it does feel a little bit similar to the situation last year where the attack isn't fully clicking just yet. Now, of course, we've got new players coming in, and obviously Merino's injury is really bad state at the moment because of our midfield needing that problems, and I think the attack has looked worse because the midfield hasn't been functional, and I actually think most of our problems are deeper than the attacking line. But there's no doubt about it, it definitely feels like Saka is hard carrying right now, and Havertz is still doing really well, working really hard to provide goals and even win the ball back at all times. Now, I did a full video about Trossard on the left hand side and how Martinelli isn't quite fitting into the same role. Now, obviously, go and watch that video if you want a proper deep dive in it. This was before the Brighton game I did this. And there's definitely problems with Martinelli's movement in the attacking third. I think especially in the box has been pretty poor. I also think that most of our midfielders do prefer that pass to the right hand side, and predominantly we play a lot of right footers in the team when you even got people like Timber in there as well. Partey, Rice, they're all right footers, and unless Gabriel is going to do that pass over, which we have seen more and more of, it is going to limit our left winger in many positions. People like Trossard can come into the middle and is a little bit more freer than Martinelli in there. Overall, I think it's still been enough for Arsenal, of course, like the start of last season where we should have probably beaten Brighton. I still think we didn't take some chances. We're still a little bit leaky in defence, but I think that's with the new system coming in, and I still think the midfield's pretty weak. I don't think Partey does a brilliant job all game at defending. Sometimes he leaves our defenders a little bit lackluster. He hasn't got that pace and that turn to keep going. But these are problems that Arsenal are going to have to live with at least for the next couple of months. We've got Merino out for 8 weeks, which is going to miss around 4 to 5 games with 2 international breaks in there. And usually that wouldn't be the worst and the end of the world, but obviously with the games that we've got in that schedule, it is not a good time. Declan Rice, of course, also suspended for the Tottenham game. We're going to have to find solutions to there. And it feels like our runners in midfield are not there at the moment. I don't think Odegaard has been particularly good, and I think it's even clear at the start of this season that he is in a sort of 8 to 10 role where he predominantly plays as the 10, and his role is to get output for us, is to create chances and be very good. Now, obviously, we know how good his link-up players, his passing is, but because he is not a natural 10, he's a natural 8, which I have something I believe in. I think sometimes when he's in them forward areas, he makes the wrong decision. You don't see many overlaps and underlaps with Saka. I sometimes feel like it's kind of the same sort of thing, a little 1-2 getting behind. And I feel like I want him to be more free in positions. I want him to go and roam a little bit more around and be a lot more free within the movement rather than sticking to that right half space. And I also think Rice in the 8 role is not really as good as some people think it is. I think he's got great driving with the ball, but that is not enough to be in that position for me. His legs are much more needed in the defensive midfield role than Partey, where he can actually cover 4 defenders and then runs that people can do. I also think he's probably a little bit tired, a little bit off it right now because he did have a very full-on European campaign, and not every player is Bukayo Saka. You can't come back and be brilliant. Now, I still think overall we're fine, and I do think this Tottenham game is a little bit of worry. You will want to play Partey, I think, over Jorginho because he has a different level. I think sometimes he could be a little bit better at running with the ball, even though he's not obviously the quickest as well. But Partey has struggled with players who like picking the ball up and just running at him. This happened a lot with Rodgers in the Aston Villa game, and you really saw some of the problems that we have with him in that 6 role. I think overall he would be fine, but I think in some games you do not want Thomas Partey to play. For instance, if Arsenal play Liverpool, you do not want Thomas Partey anywhere near that team because they've got a lot of runners in midfield and could easily cook him. But there is definitely solutions to these problems. You also got Timber, who I don't think has started brilliantly. I still feel like he's finding his role a little bit, and I want a little bit more movement from him when he gets into their midfield positions. But ultimately, I think Calafiori is someone that is going to come in a few games' time. I could definitely see him starting against Tottenham. Obviously, a very hard start away against our biggest rivals, but his drivability with the ball, his ability to actually run with it rather than being a pass-heavy guy, which we have a lot of in the team, is very important. And I also think he does have quite a lot of attacking nuisance to actually help us in a left-back role, or even that left centre-back role. And I kind of have a quotation that he might be the future left centre-back, just because his ability to run with the ball is a lot better than Gabriel's, and he can keep up with that physical level, and he's very quick as well. Maybe something that we try and transition into, even though I do love Gabriel's left-footed passes over the top. Now, these are current problems, but I'm sure Arteta's a very smart team. We've got a very smart manager. I think that we'll get better as the time goes on, and he'll kind of adapt to the mid blocks that it does seem to be quite the norm against us, because obviously we did struggle against them last season. We've also played a lot of smart managers, and we have a very hard run of fixtures, but after it gets to about October, when we've gone past that Liverpool game, I think it is, a lot more nicer schedule, and people will start considering us then, I think, to actually be competing, and I do think we definitely can. Liverpool and Man City are going to be our main rivals. I think it's clear. I think they are with us above everyone else, and I think they have looked really good. And Liverpool won't really be tested. They played United away, obviously hard game and absolutely destroyed them, but their next few games are quite easy. Obviously we've got Europe, and we're going to see how that goes for all these teams in the Champions League. We've got a pretty hard schedule to start off with that, and then it gets a bit easier as it goes on. And Man City haven't necessarily played the hardest of people, I don't personally think, but they have looked really good in certain ways where it comes to goal scoring, even though I think defensively there's definitely, you can get at them a lot more. Same with us, you could say as well though. And I think overall, obviously we know the season isn't going to be easy, and we were still going to be a little bit dodgy at the start. I think we were last year, but we know as soon as it clicks we will look a lot better, and I think at least this season we're going into it where we have Kai Havertz, who looks a lot better than last year, and he can facilitate in the midfield and the striker positions. Now the big concern for me, of course, is the Merino injury, which yet again is awful news for us. There's also news such as, where is Gabriel Jesus? He's injured again. Is he going to be available for them Tottenham and Man City games, where I think he can be a real asset? And Tomiyasu, who just seems to go missing and we haven't seen him again. And I think these are the players that are costing Arsenal. We need them to be more available. Right now I'm not too bothered about Tomiyasu in a sense, because we have the cover there, but Jesus we clearly need right now. And of course we got Sterling in, which I think was a great decision in the end, but weeks before the transfer deadline day I don't think I would have taken that signing, and I would have expected better, but it seems like the club are very happy with the situation, so I have to see what they are up to and if it is going to work. But let me know what you guys think about the current state of the club. Have you been impressed by our first 3 games? Have you been concerned? Or what is these issues that you think we have or do not have in your mind? I still think we're really good, and I still think there's no reason to panic right now, but our next games, especially against the big teams, Tottenham away, Man City, are going to be a real key indicator of how good we actually are and if we can improve into later on in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.